Welcome everybody. Nice to see everyone here today. I can see there's a fairly constant flow of people still coming into the meeting just now, so I'll give it 2 more minutes just to let everyone who wants to get into the meeting actually join. So I'll start at 5 past, so just until then I'm just going to mute and then we'll get going. I'll introduce everyone. 2 minutes for everyone. Sorry, yeah, realised I was on mute there. I'm just going to give it 1 more minute, maybe a bit less, and then I'll get things started. Okay, let's get things started then. I think that the initial rush of people have joined. Large group of people on today. It's really good to see. Welcome to this Wind Careers event that's been hosted by 3T, but it's our panel of companies that's really interesting. I think I'm looking forward to this. I last did something like this back when we were in COVID times and everything had to happen by webinar, and it was really helpful because big group of you here today, and you've all got a lot of similar questions, but they're questions that the employers amongst us, Vestas, Atlas, Muehlhan, etc., all have the answers to. So I'm going to do a really quick intro myself, but then ultimately I'm going to jump straight in. If you should be able to see the Q&A function at the top. So if you've got any questions, just fire them into there. Fire them as we go, but then we'll pick them up about halfway through and go through that way. So I think just as a kind of an initial heads up on the wind industry, I suppose a bit of an overview before I let some of these companies talk about it quite specifically. We're in a really exciting time. If I think just even the UK, it's the first time we've been the biggest and the best of things since we're building bridges and railways. We had the first ever onshore wind farm, first ever offshore wind farm. We've got the largest wind farms in development at the moment. So there are huge opportunities. You'll hear names of wind farms being mentioned probably today and ongoing. So anyone up in northeast England, there's Dogger Bank is kind of the really big live project at the moment. Sophia Wind Farm is coming hot on the heels of that, which is kind of alongside the Hull Grimsby kind of coast. But there's half a dozen or more other projects being built or starting to be built very soon. East Anglia, Hornsea, up in Scotland, off the coast from where Edinburgh, Dundee is, etc. So it's a really exciting time. It's a very busy time in the market, and that's what some of these employers are going to talk about today. And what we've tried to do is to get a really good cross section. So we have the manufacturer with us, we have the service providers, we have the recruitment and the manpower companies. So hopefully we'll get a really good cross section of opinions. And I think I think, yeah, it's a really good opportunity for you to ask questions as well. So whilst the first 20 minutes or so is kind of, I'll ask some questions, but we'll get people to talk at you. I think from that point on, it should be really good. Just fire your questions in. There's no such thing as a stupid question. We can include names, but if you don't want us to, just say kind of unnamed question or whatever, and that allows you to maybe ask a question you might not want to ask, if that makes sense. But other than that, I think I'm going to pretty much jump straight into it. I'm going to start with an apology, and that's on behalf of Orsted. They were intending to make it today, but couldn't. But I think if we start with Nick, yourself, for Vestas. So Nick, if you could explain kind of who you are, what your role is. I think a lot of people probably will have heard of Vestas, but let's assume for the sake of this that some people haven't. If you could just do a quick brief on Vestas, that'd be great.
Yeah, no problem. Hi, everyone. I hope you don't know too much about Vestas, because then you'll be able to trip me up when I get my facts wrong. Yeah, so I'm Nick Jordan. I'm the apprenticeship manager for the UK. So I look after all of our apprentices, currently service technicians. Yeah, as I say, across the UK, mainly out of Scotland at the moment. A little bit about Vestas. We're a global leader in the deploying sustainable energy solutions. Globally, we've deployed, I think at last count, 179 gigawatts of wind turbines, and that's across 88 countries. We've been specifically in wind turbines. The company itself's been around since the late 1800s, but specifically in wind since 94. And then in 2020, we acquired, when we merged back into our offshore setting. So we've currently got 55,000 turbines spinning under a range of different service agreements across the globe, which is the largest global fleet. As Charlie mentioned, it's a really exciting time. I just returned from the Global Offshore Wind Conference, which has been held in Manchester over the past couple of days. And some of the numbers that are being bandied around are quite eye-watering. I'll leave one with you. They said for every now 1 megawatt of energy produced going forward, that's going to create 2 new jobs. And if you do a back of a fag packet calculation, there's 1,000 megawatts in a gigawatt. And projects that are coming on stream in 4 or 5. So there's a lot of work to be done from my end, but there's also a lot of opportunities to come about in the future. A little bit about our apprenticeship program. As I said, currently it's based out of Scotland only, so is only eligible for Scottish residents. That said, our plan is, come next academic year, so not this September, but the following September, we'll be rolling out a range of different programs that are going to go all the way down the UK, and that'll range from four-year programs, which are like a 2-year HND followed by a 2-year on-the-job training, anything due to accelerated apprenticeships, which we're trying to focus specifically on members of the ex-members of the armed forces. But yeah, so that's a little bit about Vestas. Life as an apprentice. So we'll talk about what our guys currently do. As I say, they spend 2 years of their training at college on a full-time college course, which we fund. So that's an HND in electrical engineering. That's supplemented also with a level 2. It's called a PSO, Performance Engineering Operations. At the end of those 2 years, you then transfer onto your shift rotation. So you'll be working 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, rotating round all of the different wind farms that we have across the UK. So although it's a Scottish apprenticeship, you can find yourself down in Triton Knoll in Grimsby, or North Hoyle in Wales, or even here with me in Blythe. We have 2 different types of sites. We've got SOV sites, so they're when you'd go offshore and live and work off a vessel for 2 weeks. They're like floating hotels. And the other sort of sites we have are CTV sites. They're the ones, so if anyone's familiar with Blythe, when you can see the wind turbine from the shore, the CTV is a crew transfer vessel. So you're based on a land, you get home every night and you kind of go out on the vessel, very much similar to a taxi. We purposely, and I'm going to brag here, but we purposely overqualify our apprentices. We recognise that being a service technician is a route in, but we are looking very much to progress people through from service tech to authorising technician, and then looking to branch out into other areas. So that could be staying on the service side. I could become a SOV shift supervisor or a service manager, but there's also other areas within the business that you can jump off onto. So you could be a traveling technician, work on special projects, work in troubleshooting, or even, working as a technical support, which is a land-based role. But it's actually giving expertise and support to the range of wind farms. And that's probably my little elevator pitch.
Sounds good, Nick. That's really good. And you stole a couple of my immediate follow-on questions, which is really good. And you were saying you recruit apprentices and lots of technicians. Like, what sort of scale is that? How many technicians does Vestas have?
So currently, I'm going to talk specifically about offshore. We do have an onshore operation as well. But in terms of offshore, I currently recruit 10 every year. So that's, at the moment, we've got 40 apprentices at different stages in their pipeline, and we're bringing on another 10 in. As I alluded to as well, this is a kind of a legacy program. It's what we've done since 2020. There is scope to expand dramatically. There's actually 2 positions I'm about to post maybe this afternoon, which will be starting in September. And it's we're trying something a bit new. We're calling it a white collar. So actually, it's not a technician apprenticeship at all. It's you coming in and you'll work land based, and you'll work as part of the service team, really understanding the functions of the business. And the idea is that after you've done that for a year to 18 months, you may then choose to say, you know what, I want to follow a white collar route, project managers, planners, dispatchers, or I want to switch on to a technical route. Scale wise, as I say, it's a hard one for me. I keep hearing these numbers and these rumors of where things are going, but until I'm given the green light, I can't hit the thing. But for the foreseeable, I could see us replicating exactly what we do in Scotland at least. So 10 in Scotland, 10 in England. That's where I'm seeing, but it could be more.
That's great, Nick. Thank you. And just for bring Muehlhan in there, it's great to hear you talk about the ex-forces, bringing people in, because I know that there will be people on here that have come from either right now they're in the military and coming out, or maybe you've come out a little while ago. It's good to hear some of those numbers, because if we think 10 a year just apprentices, imagine how many technicians Vestas will be bringing in. Could probably multiply that by 10 again nearly. So I think that's really good to hear as well. And I'm going to take that as a win, Nick, that you've given us exclusivity on announcement of more job roles going live this afternoon. Heard it here first.
Also, I would jump in. We are signed up members of the Forces Covenant, and I've got I'm particularly keen. I think me and Paul were talking. So Paul's my boss, and we're keen to work. And you work on a bronze, silver, and a gold as you work up the Covenant. So I'm keen to work closely with them, because I think the skills and the behaviours that are required through the forces can certainly. I know how valuable they are, but also I think they can shorten the duration of some of the apprenticeships we offer, because they balance each other out. But yeah,
that's great. Thank you very much, Nick, and we will come back to you when we hit the Q&A. If I introduce Ryan from Muehlhan Wind Service, I won't take too much of your thunder, Ryan. I'll let you do your piece. Go for it.
Perfect. Thanks very much. What I'll do first, I'll just share my screen here with you. If you can let me know if you can see that okay.
Got it.
All good. Perfect. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ryan Porter. I'm a senior recruiter here at Muehlhan Wind Service. So Muehlhan Wind Service is a leading pre-assembly, installation and service contractor within the wind industry, mainly made up of 7 business units, which are onshore installation, offshore installation, service and statutory inspection, blade repairs, paint repairs, electrical and high voltage, as well as manpower solutions. So I personally work within the project resources team, in which your job is to provide recruitment support to business units for all matters related to blue collar employees and contractors, as well as manage HR for our blue collar workforce as well. Although our team is larger than the faces you'll see on the screen here, these are some of the important names to keep an eye out for if you're looking for a new role within the wind industry. So going from left to right, we have Carolina, who looks after our onshore, myself in offshore, Tiago and Nicole and blades, Lucy, who looks after electrical and high voltage and special projects as well, Andrea in manpower, Daria in paint, and Alexandra in service. Muehlhan have also acquired a number of other companies in the past couple of years. So again, it's good to keep an eye out for some of these names, so the likes of Epic, 3t's, ROS, ProWind, and Green Tech as well. Within project resources, we have a team ethos, which is to partner the business units to ensure we effectively recruit, retain, and develop a motivated and competent blue-collar workforce to deliver a world-class, reliable service to customers within the wind industry. Our motto is right people, right place, right time. So we achieve this by attracting and retaining the best talent in the industry and giving them the best possible start in Muehlhan Wind Service, managing and supporting the performance of the workforce to enable them to fully reach their potential and contribute to the success of projects across the globe, rewarding fairly and competitively and recognising outstanding staff efforts, embedding a supportive and inclusive culture with effective leadership, as well as promoting positive engagement and ensuring staff feel valued. So although that's quite a brief overview, I hope it gives you a bit more information about Muehlhan slightly as a company and the role I do within it as well.
It's great, Ryan. And so as you're talking there, so how you've got a team of people that are recruiting, how do you normally go about finding your new recruits?
So I would say that LinkedIn is a vital tool for us recruiters. You can imagine that we're flooded with messages and CVs on a daily basis. So it's really important for candidates to include key information on your LinkedIn profile and on your CV, specifically the headline area in LinkedIn. So this shows when recruiters are searching or filtering connections and candidates, that, for example, if you have something like aspiring wind turbine technician, if you have your GWOs, have them listed, the likes of FA for first aid, MH for manual handling, SS for sea survival, so on and so forth. So yeah, the key I would say to that is update your LinkedIn profile, include as much information as you can, as much in your background as well, whether it's wind related or not, as it's always important and always looked at.
That's a really good heads up. And the other one I was thinking, sorry, I'm keep firing questions at you, Ryan, but what's the thing that you come across most often? Because we've seen some of the questions coming in the chat, by the way, people please do keep putting questions in, but what do you come across most often, Ryan?
So I would say the key question is, how do I get into the wind industry? And that's a question that a lot of individuals have. My advice on this, again, would be to develop your LinkedIn profile as well as your CV and start following as many companies as possible related to the wind industry. As in for Muehlhan, for example, the page is constantly posting open vacancies on a weekly, monthly basis as well. I would also say connect with as many recruiters as you can as well. When you go into these pages on LinkedIn, you'll see that you've got a list of people working for the company, you've got recruiters listed on there. And the more you grow your network, the more chance there is for an opportunity to present itself as well. You'll find, again, recruiters list email addresses on their profiles, so don't be shy in getting your CV sent over to that. I would say don't be disheartened if you don't hear something back straight away, because again, as I says, recruiters are flooded with CVs. But yeah, if there's something that becomes available, there's always an opportunity that someone will reach out. Advice on that as well is to keep an eye, specifically at Muehlhan, to keep an eye on certain types of projects. So we always find that installation projects, onshore, offshore, seem to be a kind of starting area in Muehlhan, where we would take in individuals that are newly qualified and have just got their certificates. And then you would go on from there to move into other departments or other projects, main components exchange, so on and so forth. So my key advice would be patient, but most importantly, be persistent with it, because you'll get there in the end.
Yeah, I agree with that. And just before I bring Mark and Atlas in, it's in the same way that you at Muehlhan have the right time, right place. I've probably got those wrong. But for people getting into the industry, it is exactly the same, isn't it? You need to be at the right place at the right time. So you might send your CV off today, and honestly, you don't hear anything back. You send the same email off again in 3-4 weeks' time, and it's just when you've got an installation project happening, you need boots on the ground, and it's perfect timing.
Exactly that.
So on to recruitment a little bit further. So Mark McDonald, Atlas Professionals, do you want to come in and just tell us a little bit about Atlas?
Hi Charlie, thanks for the invite today. Just like to say it's been really interesting up to now, what Ryan and that's got him and Nick's had to say about the wind industry and stuff like that. Very short introduction about myself. My name's Mark McDonald. I'm actually the Health and Safety Manager for Atlas Group. We have, at the moment, growing, it seems to be every week. At the moment, we've got 33 offices in 22 different countries. We are a recruitment company who recruit for the energy sector. So that is ROV, diving, seismic, survey, oil and gas. But we're here today to speak about renewables, which is the largest part of our business and growing all the time. Apart from the health and safety standpoint, I also run our new entrant program for the renewable sector. I also run the Green Hands program that's for oil and gas. We've run it for 6 years. It's been really successful. Just to note that we've had around about 660, 670 new entrants, what we call Green Hands in the oil and gas industry, into the sector. So we are really experienced in getting new entrants into positions within the sectors that they want to work in. Renewables is a new one. We've already held an event down in Newcastle in the 3T Training Services office in Newcastle, where I'm actually situated at the moment. We're looking to expand that into Europe and further afield. Our offices that deal with renewables are based in Bristol, in Netherlands, and Boston in the United States. We have worked in the largest projects in Europe and further afield as well. Especially in the United States at the moment is really kicking off in eastern states, and also in Asia, in the APAC region. I'm going to shortly pass you on to one of my colleagues. We've got a partnership with a company called Next Wave Partners, and I'll pass you on to Alex very shortly. He'll speak more about the renewables side of the business. So it's a bit about Alex.
Good shout, Mark. So I was going to bring Alex in as well, and then I might fire some questions at both of you. But go for Alex.
No worries, I'll be quite brief. So Next Wave was a company that I founded back in February 2016. We were subsequently acquired by Atlas Professionals in 2022. And Next Wave as a business is a pure play renewable energy and climate transition recruitment company. We focus on everything from the top of the value chain with investors and financial institutions in the space, down to developers that might be building client rep teams, as well as blue collar hires on their projects and project management teams. And then obviously similar to what Muehlhan mentioned as well, in that we cover the blue collar work for the manufacturers, the EPCs and the subcons, ranging from pre-assembly, installation, commissioning and servicing. But then with the subcontractors, we do a lot of offshore work, whether it be on vessels or onshore civil, electrical, mechanical type work there as well. So yeah, a bit about that. But I tend to focus a little bit more on the APAC market. But yeah, can offer any advice, Charlie, on any questions you've got around there.
Yeah, it's great, Alex. And you're saying you focus on APAC, so we talk about a lot about the UK because naturally that's where we are and that's where a lot of the people are. But I mean, outside of the UK, which regions are kind of really going for wind, and where's the massive demand that you're seeing?
Yeah, so I guess it depends on whether it's on or offshore wind. But for offshore wind, which is obviously on the tip of a lot of people's tongues at the moment, Taiwan has probably been the biggest market for offshore wind over the past few years. It was one of the early movers. They now have a number of projects that have been constructed and are going into construction at the moment. And I would say the biggest challenges for them there is that the local workforce of Taiwanese professionals are very, very thin. There's very few people to do this. So these projects heavily rely on people from Europe that can bring the experience in and support these big projects. And the same goes for two really big markets to focus on in the coming years, which are Japan and Korea, and they face exactly the same problems. And I think Korea is probably the biggest uptick, probably in terms of offshore wind projects over the next 5 years, I would say, in Asia, followed by Australia, I would say.
Yeah, heard a lot of noise about Australia in the last week at that Manchester event, and it's interesting. We ran surveys on the people coming through the training centre, and it's been fairly. We haven't done loads of people that we've spoken to, but of those we've done, 20% are going out working internationally, and at the time it was Taiwan, the US quite a bit as well. That's really interesting.
My advice on people coming out overseas is to try and get some experience in a wind project domestically in your home country first, any sort of experience. And typically our clients will often want experience with a certain type of equipment in order to take a foreigner over a local person in country. So it's really important that you get some experience before you then come out overseas. And I'd say really try and take whatever you can in locally before you do that.
Yeah, that's a really good shout, Alex. I might ask you the question, Mark, but if you work a lot with people coming in fresh to an industry, and I suppose to be fair to you, you're not just wind, you're wind and oil and gas and other sectors as well. So, but the advice is probably the same. What do you say to people that are coming in for the first time and they've got that catch-22? Because it's one of the questions actually in the chat, which I know I've kind of skipped to, but it's the catch-22 of I don't have experience, but I can't get experience without giving the first gig.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in the same boat 2005 trying to get into the oil and gas industry. I was a postal worker for 15 years since I left school. It is very, very hard. And unfortunately, you will get people who will say, yeah, go and do this courses, go and do this course, get your CV into our system, and then we will look for jobs. And if I'm being brutally honest, sometimes that isn't quite the case. I think our Muehlhan program and new entrant program has built a way for new entrants to get into the energy sector, and we're looking to do that with renewables and bring it, as I say, not just for Europe but also in the UK, but also worldwide. It was interesting to see what Nick said as well about how much people. I've been in a lot of panels in the last 6-7 months, and they're banding numbers like 70,000 people required just for the renewable sector, just in the UK by 2030. Now, I made a quick calculation last year, around about this time last year, and that was like 53 people per person, per day, every day for the next 6-7 years. That's crazy. And we're a bit like where Nick is just now, where we are actually waiting for the big, we need people now, and we'll get them through our course. The course is a total free course. We don't charge for it. It's a 1-day course as well. We will go through interviews, make sure we've got the right people our clients are looking for, as Nick said, ex-military, people with a technical background, electrical, mechanical bias, not so much just now, but other energy sector experience, like in oil and gas. Everybody talks about this transition of moving from oil and gas into renewables, but what the renewable sector have got to remember is that as exploration goes down in oil and gas, decommissioning will go up. So it's how much people are going to transition in from oil and gas into renewables. It's something that the industry really needs to look at as well. We can get the people through the courses. We can certainly, but have they got the right attitude, the right behaviours? Working offshore isn't for everybody. And we see that, and with it as well. So it's really interesting. So if I can be very brief about it, if I can, is we've got a dedicated team of for green hands. Well, when I say green hands, I mean like new entrants. So what we ask you to do is register with us. We've got a landing page on our website specifically for new entrants. We go in there, we'll look at your CV, we'll look at your background, we will get back in touch with you. We're not one of these agencies that will just look at it. So no, you've made the effort to actually put your profile in and attend, so we will get back to you. It might not be the answer you want, but we'll be open and honest, and we'll use our integrity with that as well. We'll interview you. We'll make sure we'll get you through the 1 3-day course that will cover all aspects of renewables energy. We'll put you through some health and safety training as well that I personally will facilitate with that as well. And we'll get you through an aptitude test that will show the client some sort of competence that you've got within the industry, and then we'll take it from there with it. That's where we stand with the new entrants.
That's great, Mark. Thank you very much. And I'm going to smoothly transition into the Q&A kind of piece now. So keep adding either into the Q&A section or the chat your questions. And Ryan, it's possibly slightly more your way on kind of the backgrounds of people, but I know as a training provider, we have to almost morally give some expectations to people, because what you don't want to do is just get your, in our case, GWO certificates, even though you, in the nicest way, don't stand a chance of getting into the industry because of a really obscure background that you've got. But I mean, from your point of view, what do you see as when someone is coming in through and they haven't got wind background, what is the next best thing? Of what sort of background are you looking at?
I mean, the thing is that I've seen, from the amount of applicants I've actually seen taken in, yeah, okay, we have a lot of individuals coming in with some kind of experience, whether it be as a mechanic, as an electrician, just working in car garages, something like that. If not, again, there's so many other things that you can transition the skills from. So there's so many hard-working professions out there that literally, if you're listing them on your CV, we are seeing how they can be comparable and how we can then utilize them within the industry. So what I would say is that although there are certain types of professions that are looked at and maybe favoured when picking applicants, is that I wouldn't be put off by listing all your experience in there, because it's always considered. And like I said, is that naturally for us, it seems as if that, especially within Muehlhan, is that these installation projects seem to be a kind of foot in the door. It might not be the kind of jazziest job that you have initially when you go into the industry, but like I said, is that there's jobs there to get a foot in the door, and that's the important thing. Even I've seen individuals come in as site admins before, where you will come in, you will book travel for the technicians, you will organise cars on site and deal directly with the client. But naturally, there seems to be a progression there as well, is that a lot of our site admins then will go on and they'll get their GWOs, and they'll then become a trainee technician, move on to a competent technician, and go on from there. So there are a number of roles within the industry that are there to start off with.
Yeah, it's very true. And Nick, I don't know if you had a point, because I saw you go off mute and on mute, but
Yeah, can I just to add to that, and I appreciate it's a chicken and the egg situation sometimes. How do I get the experience?
exactly.
From Vestas' point of view, we regard ourselves as a technology company and an innovation company. Learn about us. There's a lot of content about on our website. Understand the turbines, get an idea. You're not going to get the technical docs, but you'll get a good idea of what's in the pipeline. Everyone's talking currently about, the V236, so it's the biggest turbine in the world. No one's got any expertise on it yet. Yeah. Floating wind farms, understand the sector, and I'm not directly in. I deal with the education and the training side of things, so I'm not a recruiter as such. But when I speak to the recruiters, it's like it really is about attitudes and behaviors. Our responsibility is to ensure we train you and equip you with the skills that you need to do the job we want you to do. Yeah, that's that the training available. You'll train all the way through your career. Getting in there, getting noticed, is the hard bit. And really don't overlook what you've done previously. Volunteering work, sports teams, projects you've worked. There's for those, I don't know who's from the Northeast on the call, but Energy Central Learning Hub, which is just coming on site in Blythe in September. That's going to really focus, the training and development. They may be looking for just people with experience to do some, to working with students. Be a guest speaker, getting known, getting your face known. It does really matter. It's not unfortunately, supply and demand's not really balanced at the moment. So it's getting that thing that really makes you stand out. Because it's the behaviors that we're really looking for and the attitudes.
Yeah, if I can just jump in there, I totally agree, Nick. And Ryan said it as well, there's transferable skills in nearly every single job that you can do. Teamwork, communication. My advice to everybody that's on the call and further afield is, if you do get your chance as well, the way I see health and safety is work hard, work smart, work efficient, do all these great things, learn as you're going along as well, find a path that you want to go down, have a goal and work your way down that, ask questions. If you don't ask questions, you're not going to get knowledge from the experienced people out there. People will realize that you are green, as I say, new to the industry. So ask questions. I'm more than happy for anybody to get in contact with me and ask me any sort of questions. If I don't know the answer, I can certainly point in the right direction of somebody that will know the answer as well. We won't keep you hanging, leave you hanging, and looking at that, we will, as I say, point in the right direction of the people who in the know.
Yeah.
One of the things I was going to add quickly here is, obviously, for me, I'm a really big believer in looking for mentorship. And what I mean by that is it can come from anywhere. It doesn't need to be someone senior. With the blue collar industry, the majority of people that we hire, and I'm sure even within Vestas and other companies, is through word of mouth, people that people know. So for me, if you know a technician that's holding a role that you'd like to be in, speak to them, ask them, reach out to them on LinkedIn and say, hey, mate, want to find out a way to get into the industry. Can you tell me about how you got into it? And chances are they're going to chat to their mates and say, I spoke to this guy that approached me the other day. It seems like a good guy to work with. And maybe you might find a route in where they recommend you to someone else. And that's that personal touch a lot of the time that goes a long way. And that goes for both junior people and experienced people. And I think Ryan touched on some really interesting points around being smart around how you get into the companies as well. Think about the experience that you have got and then apply to those types of roles versus going for the role you'd love to do. It's less about what you'd want to do at the beginning and more about finding an entry point in. And I think, as Ryan said, things like site admin type roles are the perfect roles to try and get into, that a non-technical person can get into there. And actually, one of the things that I personally recommend is it's worth to do the certifications and invest in those certifications if you have any sort of technical background, because a lot of people don't take that first step, and you're just getting amongst other people in the industry doing that sort of thing. might even be renewing courses. So you make the network renewing certifications even when you're doing it for the first time. So it gets you around those types of people. And if you can't get into the wind industry at the beginning, it's better to be in a job that might be relevant to it than not at all. So for me there, it might be being an industrial, power, anything energy sector related. Just find a tangential industry whilst you're applying to those roles, because better to have something than nothing and be sat around. And that's what I think a lot of employers look for, is continuity of work, proven track record, and just knowing people in the industry. And I think a lot of it goes with the personal touch as well. Whilst I am a recruiter and I'm able to help a lot of people, actually, if I was in the shoes of my client, for someone that had very little experience, I'd actually prefer that they reached out directly in a lot of instances, because it shows a bit of initiative and drive that maybe not other people are doing. So that's just maybe my take on it from my side. But yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Alex. And between the 4 or 5 of us, I think we're covering off a lot of the questions here incidentally as well, which is really helpful, because a lot of the things that you're picking up on as a group, I absolutely agree with. Some of it is timing. And when you're midway through a season and there's construction projects happening, some projects need bodies on the ground, and the fact that you don't have direct experience suddenly becomes not the main thing. It's the fact you're available and you've got some relevant background. And I think, Camille, you put in one of the first questions. Oh, I'm back.
You're back.
Everyone, just think about your slightly obscure backgrounds that have some relevance. So you've worked in lifting operations in a completely different sector. Well, you've worked in lifting operations. You've done something electrical. Electrical is in huge demand in wind. People coming into wind, they don't have experience on wind turbines electrical because there's only a small number do. Think of the obscure piece as well. I mean, Ryan, you were just picking up on it there a little bit about specific kind of training courses. Sorry, Nick, you picked on the specifics for Vestas, but Ryan, I think I don't know if you agree with it. Is it fair to say that if you had something like blade repair, for instance, you get your GWO courses, your BSTs, you get your GWO blade repair. You can only get the manufacturer training once you're in a company anyway. So there isn't really any specific training the individual can get. They've got to get the role with you first. That's some of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think blade repair is a fantastic example. Is that within Muehlhan, our blades department is the busiest department, and we're always taking new guys into blades as well. So yeah, those specific courses, the ones that you can get, I would say but in terms of the client specific, you're absolutely right, is that more often than not, companies like Muehlhan, as soon as you're into the position, they will provide those company specific courses that are required, because when you're in, you'll find that they then invest in you going forward. And yeah, again, it needs to be the right individual, but that's a big word. There's an investment in both sides. But yeah, those kind of courses, the blade repair, I see a lot of guys going into our blades department, but also I deal with offshore pre-assembly. We have painters in there as well that require the blade repair. So again, there's so many different areas where that one specific course or certificate is then applicable.
Yeah, that's great. There's 10 and a bit minutes left. I'm going to dip around some questions on a little bit of a quicker basis. Nick, one kind of heading your direction. So you mentioned that the Vestas apprentices currently only out of Scotland, if I remember correctly, and there's a chap South Tyneside at the moment. So when you're looking at those future kind of apprenticeship plans, I know there's not a great deal you can share, but are some of those going to be fielded out of England? Are you aware of other apprenticeships coming out of there?
There will be. I mean, there are other apprenticeships. I know Siemens Gamesa and I think Equinor, and they've got things based more around the northeast. We currently don't. It's worth noting, though, don't limit yourself to your local site. Really, that's a big bit of advice. If you're working on an SOV site, you're offshore for 2 weeks and you're off work for 2 weeks. There may be sites coming down further down the East Coast that you'll be seeing. If an apprenticeship was like that, we personally won't be doing the Northeast anytime soon. However, with our apprenticeship courses, we accommodate you. So in your training, our apprentices up in Scotland, we pay for their halls of residence for 2 years before they've even set foot on a turbine. The caveat behind that is our apprenticeship programs currently, we recognise it's not a case of just getting someone into the industry as a competent technician. It's accelerating them through quite fast into authorising technicians. That's why electric is key for us as well. We have quite a high bar for our Scottish apprenticeships scheme. The English one will be different. It'll be a level 3, and it's very going to be quite behaviours based. We're not gonna set the bar unrealistically high, but we'll become quite a robust process of getting people in, more about the behaviours. But yeah, there's things in South Tyneside, I do believe. I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure Orsted as well, but every website apart from Vestas, if you go on all the big ones, they've got a really great apprenticeship portal.
Yeah, and I think that's something I've noticed by working in the manufacturers, Vestas, Siemens, the developers also, that, like you said, have very good website information. I think, Muehlhan, it's fair to say, like you said, LinkedIn is the way to go, because the turnover of job roles is such that you don't use the website as much, so LinkedIn is the way to go there as well.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm just very specific one, Reese. I've just noticed background in the Navy as a HV electrical engineer. There's such a requirement for electrical skills in the wind industry at the moment that you should have no issues getting a role with that background. Your specific question was around what qualifications, and it kind of goes a little bit to what I said earlier. So you look at your GWO courses as your safety courses that allow you to get on the site. They get you onto site. That doesn't mean you can then do anything when you're on that site. That's a really big misconception of GWOs. You don't get a job just by having your GWOs. You then need to apply it to becoming a welder or a blade repair tech or whatever. In your case, with that electrical background, that is what you bring into site. So in terms of further qualifications, you get your GWO basic safety training and a couple of others. And I'm actually going to talk at the very end, the last 5 minutes about that. So I'll come on to it. Your electrical engineer background will probably get you your first role, I'd say relatively easily, but that's a very dangerous thing to say in front of a lot of people, but you should do. And then once you're in role, you then get the manufacturer specifics, like, Nick's colleagues will come and give Vestas specific training, or you might be on a Siemens project with the same, or GE, etc. So that's just an answer to that. Where are we on? Last 5 minutes, and then I'm just going to talk, because one of the questions is about funding, so I'm going to talk that out separately. And I'm just checking I haven't missed anything. One of the points I was going to mention, it's picking up on a bit of someone's question, is timing. You generally find in the first few months of the year, there's a lot of experienced people there looking for their contracts for the following year, and they've got the experience. It's quite easy for them to get one, therefore quite hard for anyone without experience to get a job at the start of the year. But as you start to get in and amongst the year, and Ryan will see this quite a bit, as you head into next month and August, the experienced people are all pretty well contracted up with jobs, but this pre-installation work still requires a lot of people, and that timing now gives you a really good opportunity. Conversely, if it was October, November, December time, I'd say that your chance of finding a new role as an inexperienced person pretty damn difficult, because there's not a lot of work out there during those winter months anyway. So any that they have are probably going to be taken up by experienced people. So you just need to time your investment in training right, time your approach correctly. Anything to add from anyone before I move on?
Nope.
Cool, sounds good. So I'm kind of scanning as I go through the questions, but there was a couple have asked about assistance and funding, and these days it's probably only happened in the last couple of years. There's a huge amount of funding happened. So 3 streams I'm going to mention briefly, and then I'll do a last sweep through for any questions that I've missed. Three areas of funding. So if you're ex-military, current or recent ex-military, there's 2 routes. There's LCAS credits, which if you're in the military, you'll know what they are. That allows you to go on a level 3 wind course, which gets you your GWOs. A little bit, the fact is level 3 is good, but ultimately what you're doing is working to get your GWO courses. As training providers, with that, we're not actually allowed to say that you get your GWO certificates because of the very complicated LCAS rules. I can kind of assure you that you do get them, but that's one route through. The other is through the Career Transition Partnership, CTP. So we've got a direct contract with them for our GWO BST, Basic Safety Training courses, and our BTT courses, and they book whole courses at a time, and then they work to bring you into them, and you kind of reserve places on them as well. And then the last one is Green Skills. So Green Skills is for anyone. So now for those that aren't military, so to come on Green Skills, you could be in military or not any. And I think Green Skills has to be a little bit restrictive, because else we do get to the point where we're just giving people certificates, even though maybe there isn't the opportunity for work out there because of your background. So what we try and do is hook you up with the team here. So Mark, that's what you're doing with us today, isn't it? Speaking to Green Skills people. And what we'll try and do through that is to help guide you and say, well, either go down this route or go down that route, or yeah, look, you stand a really good chance of getting a role, or potentially you don't stand a good job. So by all means, come and do the training, but we just want to manage your expectations here and don't just assume that you're going to walk into a job. So the Green Skills, ideally, you'll have that electrical mechanical background, or you'll be ex-military, but it's not strictly restricted to that either. So I'm just checking now. Does anyone think I've missed any questions that have been looking? We all good? So we're in the last few minutes. So what I was going to do is just for each of our 4 panelists, just quickly go around and see if there's anything that you wanted to comment that you didn't get the opportunity to, or if you're all good. So if I follow the same order that we introduced you, actually, that makes more sense. So Nick, over to you.
Yeah, just there are, as I say, I'll be posting 2 apprenticeship roles out. It's coming through a service assistant route though, which we talked about a little bit earlier. It's a great way to get into the industry, and it gets you sightseeing and gets you to know it. And also to add on, and I'm not selling someone else's product here, but it was something that I saw yesterday at the Global Offshore Conference. There's a learning platform that's out, and it looks very robust. It's reasonable. It's £100 for 10 lessons, but it's about 50 hours worth of content, really understanding the wider sector, the job roles, so I don't know, I'm not promoting it because I've not used it, but it did look good. It's called Offshore Wind Learning, and it's all digital based, so that might be something. But as I say, I'm not promoting it because I've not done it.
Brilliant one to finish on. Yeah, great, Nick. Thanks. It's good heads up. Where did we go from here? Ryan, yourself.
Yeah, so just again to reiterate what I said before, in terms of if you're new, trying to get into the industry, get onto Muehlhan Wind Service LinkedIn page, get it followed, because on a weekly basis we update there if there's any new roles available. Like Alex said as well, if you know someone within the industry, go on at them, ask them questions. If they're in a position, try and get them to get your CV over, because a lot of the CVs that I do get as well, and a lot of the ones that are considered are by technicians that are already in the industry that are then suggesting someone else as well. So yeah, that's extremely important. But also, as I said, be persistent. Don't get disheartened, and look for other positions. Don't just focus on the one position that you're aiming for. Look at other positions maybe in the meantime, or somewhere that's going to get you there.
Great, brilliant. Mark, yourself, anything closing remarks?
Yeah, just what Ryan said there. Don't give up. And keep on, be resilient. Keep on asking the questions to the right people. Keep from an Atlas perspective, Next Wave Partner perspective. Look at our website. We will always be putting on there as a landing page where you can then register for up and coming courses that we're doing that are totally free. So there will be ones in the UK in the coming months. Europe as well. We're looking to expand that worldwide to the APAC region and everything as well in the coming months, years and stuff. So, you know, it doesn't matter where you are, we're going to need people in the industry. And at some stage, it's going to just go boom. And, you know, there's going to be a lot of work out there. And the industry's got to have no option but to take on new people. What we need to do is make sure that these people are right, got the right attitude, right behaviours, the right backgrounds, the transferable skills, but also as well, they're ready to go in. You know, it's not just a case of, you know, doing all their courses, but they also need to know about the health and safety. It's obviously a big part of it as well. They need to know what they're walking into. As I say, 'cause offshore life isn't for everybody. So as I say, keep a look on our website, because there's a lot of good stuff coming up. You know, during my courses, we tell you about industry as well. You know, what to expect. You know, what is a wind turbine. We'll go through a renewables mastery class as well during that 1-day course as well. And
Great.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
I've seen a few questions come in, so I'm going to cover them in the last dying few minutes after yourself. Alex, what have you noticed as you've gone through this last hour? And you might want to come off mute so we can hear you.
All good. I would say what Ryan mentioned is probably the key pieces. Get everything on LinkedIn, all of your certificates, really market yourself well. Get out to events and speak to as many people in the industry as possible. That's probably my main 3 pieces. I'll leave you to jump onto the questions.
Brilliant. That's brilliantly succinct, Alex. So yeah, there was 4, and I'm going to kind of rattle through them very quickly. So demand for blade repair technicians still seems high. There's been an awful lot of people have gone into that work that I've noticed in the last 12 to 18 months, but it still doesn't seem to have stopped more people successfully finding work. So good place. Someone talking about what do I do kind of straight after I've got my training. Network, which I think has been the summary of what Ryan and Alex were just saying there. Even I say when you're on courses, it is highly likely that if you do a GWO course, you're going to be on a course with an operations manager, a project coordinator, is going to be a fellow delegate. On your lunch, don't keep yourself to yourself. Have a chat. What do you do currently? And use those contacts as much as you can. Someone mechanical engineer. So your first steps really, GWO is kind of like I say, your license to operate. Basic safety training. When people talk about have you got your work height, your first aid, your fire awareness, that is all encapsulated within this course. 5 days basic safety training. Make sure you've got that course. Most companies, if I'm honest, as you're coming in for the first time, expect you to self-fund that, or you can use the funding but get it yourself. Basic technical training, similar kind of concept. Most companies expect you to have they're the 2. Saw someone job centre from London region. If they don't have an electrical background, that doesn't mean they're not coming into wind. The demand for people is much higher than just being able to go for Utopia. But do work with the candidates to see what obscure skill they've got there that they might not immediately associate with the wind industry. And I know you joined a little late, so we were talking about, you know, who's used a crane on a construction site before, who's been in and around a job that has the same kind of health and safety mentality as wind. Most people should expect as they're coming in to take what I'd say is a step backwards to take 2 steps forwards. So we said, if you get offered a job as a project admin, that, you know, that's office work and you're aiming to become a wind technician, so you might not see office work as the primary route. Take the job as a project admin, get your first foot in the door, and then from there leverage to get out. They're the ones I've noticed. Sorry, last one, rope access technicians. If you're already a technician, ropes on other sectors, that's definitely relevant. You've got a logbook, you've got some hours. Ropes technicians, pretty much that's blade repair. There's some works around, you know, tower maintenance, painting scopes, but I'd say it's mainly blade repair. Shout out any of my panelists, otherwise I will look to bring to a close.
No, thank you for attending, and thank to everybody participating.
Yeah, brilliant.
Hopefully everybody's got something out of it.
That's exactly it. So I think you all have our website address of 3ttrainingservices.com. Use that, use inquiries. If you've got inquiries for specific participants, email them across to us and we will then field those across them. But other than that, we've just about finished on the hour, a smidge over. Thank you very much for joining the last hour. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for your questions, and thank you to the team from Vestas, Muehlhan, Atlas, and Next Wave. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. Good luck.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.